Doing any check one, check twos?
Yeah, so
All
you've done interviews and stuff before.
Yeah,
I saw you on Channel 27.
For sure. Yep. And my background before this, I actually taught middle school band, so I'm really used to kind of being in front of people and doing things. So this is.
Let's just bring that up. It's fine, but let's just bring it up just a little bit.
Okay.
If we can. Will that bother you if it's just right there? Then you don't have to bend over. Just forget it's there.
I can certainly work with that. And actually, I've done some sound recording work on the side too. So
good.
Really used to be around microphones. I'll try not to shout too much for you.
Excited about. You want to test yours too? Hudson, just in case.
Yep. All righty. And I'll give it a check one too. All right. Perfect.
So how did you didn't grow up in Mazo?
I didn't. No, I grew up in Wisconsin Rapids, actually a North Dakota native, but moved to Wisconsin when I was about 4. Few different places in central Wisconsin. Came down to Madison area in like 14, moved to Mazo in 16.
Okay.
And so I've been here since 16, living over near the feed mill on Kramer Street.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So not far from the Gandy Dancer stomping grounds.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah, it's actually, I can kind of see a little bit of the stomping grounds from my porch in the backyard. And actually, that's how I kind of first became familiar with the community. One of my friends invited me over for Gandy Dancer, and we came over for the festival. And that's really where I started to learn about Mazo. And then when I was looking to buy a house, Mazo came up in an option. So here I am.
Yeah. So you didn't, it's not like you moved with the Gandy Dancer Festival to Mazo because it's located here now. You actually moved here or was familiar with Mazo and then got familiar with the Gandy Dancer Festival.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, and with my background in music, I for a while was considering opening a music studio or lesson studio. So I had met with the village leadership.
Okay.
And that didn't end up coming to fruition really, but they let me know that the festival is looking for some more leadership and some people to be involved. And so I offered up my time and my background. I felt like it was a good fit. And after a year or so, I became the creative director, artistic director for the festival, and have been doing the majority of social media, booking bands, research, things like that ever since.
And I was wondering, I asked the question in my mind, I wonder what his title is or if they have titles. Now, Gail Harrop works with you. Is she just like a board member? Or is she something?
We're fairly informal as far as titles go. We try to keep things as even as possible across the different members of the board to kind of distribute the work as much as possible. I mostly use the artistic director title just for when I'm reaching out to bands, so they know that I'm not just a random person trying to contact them.
Sure.
I think gives a little bit more weight to the email.
Yeah. I was thinking that maybe what we would do with this interview is just talk about first of all, the dates for the 2023, not go through the whole spiel, but then just highlight that. We can talk a little bit about the history because I really appreciated the history, the kind of bullet points you gave. That was very helpful. And then third, we can go back and kind of, go through the whole shooting match as far as what's going on.
For sure. You lead me through and I'm happy to answer whatever questions and just talk through it.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So full transparency, Kenny. I thought, what year was the first year that the Gandy Dancer came here again? Was it
2008 was the first year in Mazo.
2008. Okay. Okay. And so, we live here, just a stone's throw. We can hear it oftentimes.
Yeah, right.
But for several years, until somebody set me straight, I thought Gandy dancers were like cloggers.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you'd never expect it. Yeah, it's really kind of an unusual term. It first came to be through a tool that was kind of known as a Gandy. Railway workers would use this tool in coordination, and as they're using it, it would look like they're dancing, and they became known as Gandy dancers. There's a lot of really kind of interesting lore behind it. People don't really know exactly where it came from. Some people think there was a factory in Chicago. Some people think there's a factory in New York, but none of these places have actually been able to verify who first created the tool or if there's even a business called the Gandy company that created this tool. So it kind of became out of thin air, and maybe there was a company called the Gandy company at one point in time, but truly nobody's really been able to verify it. And now it's just this piece of railway history that is kind of, with Mazo being a railway village, kind of a really appropriate way to work in some history of the village and celebrate what we do here.
Yeah. So you're saying that there was a tool called the Gandy, or was that the person that used the tool?
They would sometimes call the tool the Gandy.
Okay.
The company was supposedly known as the Gandy Company.
Okay.
And the tool they used, they would sometimes loosely refer to as the Gandy tool or a Gandy. And it's just a kind of a loose, not exactly clear history, but it's kind of, so the more you dig into it, the murkier it gets actually, which is kind of fun. You don't expect a phrase like that to have a weird history to it, but it truly does.
Huh.
Yeah.
I had a question about is the Gandy Dancer Festival, is it unique to Mazo? Or
It
are
is.
there other festivals around the Gandy Festival, I guess you'd say, in another small town that has a railroad that goes through it or anything like that?
Yeah, it is actually pretty unique to Mazomanie. From the research I've been doing, I haven't found any other towns that are really doing a Gandy Dancer kind of festival. I think the closest thing, and coincidentally, is also in Wisconsin. There's a Gandy Dancer Trail that's fairly prominent in northwestern Wisconsin, and on occasion we'll get some emails misdirected our way that was supposed to go to them, and so I think it's. If you search for Gandy Dancer Festival on Google, you'll only see the one here.
Interesting.
But the Gandy Dancer Trail was, I'm just trying to get the whole, and I know you say it's a little bit murky, the history and stuff, but I'm just trying to get so the Gandy Dancer Trail, is that the Gandy tool or the Gandy person that used the tool, is that always associated with railroad?
Yeah, it is.
It's a specific railroad tool.
For sure.
Do you know what that tool looks like?
Yeah, it's kind of a, actually on our logo, we have a Gandy type tool on it. It has kind of a claw, like if you imagine like a hoof on an animal that has two parts, and you would put that between the railway spike and jump up on the Gandy tool, and that would raise up the...
kind of like a crowbar.
Yeah,
almost.
exactly, kind of like a crowbar.
Something to leverage so you don't have to bend over and try to dig that out yourself.
right.
And so you have on your poster here that we'll take a look at and talk through, you have like a banjo, it looks like, and then the Gandy tool. Got it. Crisscrossed there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we
Okay,
can take a
great.
picture of that and have Damon show that so people can see the whole list if they don't catch all of the dates when we talk about them.
Yeah.
So
So why, I mean, Madison isn't, it's got the UW, it's got, the Capitol, the civic things, but it was a railroad town too, a railway town too.
Sure.
Why did they move from Madison? Just too big of a venue? Did it get swallowed up? What's the history behind that? Do you know it all?
Not a ton, but I do know that the very first year they actually had train rides that were associated with it, and when they were looking for a new place to, I think, have a train parked for a little bit, it was on a similar line. They were able to kind of relocate things pretty easily over to Mazomanie. When it first moved here, there wasn't an intention to keep it in Mazo, but it kind of kept on happening, and now I think we're at this point in time pretty solidly we're going to stay here for I would say the extended future of the festival. I don't see any reason. And now I feel like the festival is now associated with Mazomanie.
Sure.
And it would feel weird to have it anywhere else now.
There was, and I don't know if that's the same thing, but I don't know, time goes by so quickly. 15 years ago, there were train rides that would go to Madison and back, I think. Was that part of the Gandy Festival?
And some of those trains went under repair and aren't available anymore. And from what I understand, there is quite a bit of funds required to get those trains around. So I don't think there's quite the funding to necessarily have that. Plus repairs made things unavailable. And it's kind of interesting. I just was shared an article with me earlier this week from the very first festival, and it was talking about how bluegrass was part of the festival from day one, and it kind of disappeared over a period of time and it was a little bit more of an Americana, but we brought the focus back to bluegrass in 2016, 2017, and if you are familiar with the history of bluegrass music, there is a ton of music in the catalog specifically about railway history, railway songs, and so the pairing of bluegrass and railway actually has quite a long history together. So I think it's kind of fascinating to dig in that too.
Connect together, huh? You mentioned funding. You were talking about the railroad
Yeah.
funding because of broken down things and such repairs. How is the Gandy Dancer Festival? I mean, you have to have bands come in.
Yep.
You've got lots of setup. You've got organizational things.
Yeah.
Paper stuff and lots of. How are you funded? I
Sure.
saw that it's part of the Mazomanie Charitable Alliance.
Right. So you're correct. It is part of the Mazomanie Charitable Alliance, and the festival itself wouldn't happen without the help of a ton of really generous donors. I think in 2016, we actually did take a year off of the festival because there were some funding issues, and we kind of had to change up the model of the festival. And that's when we introduced the main stage admission fee, and we've brought the festival back to kind of being not necessarily, I wouldn't call it a profitable festival. It's something that is sustainable in the long term. So people like John Wick are, one of our main donors, and obviously does a lot of other things for the community as well. So it's the combination of some significant donations. Dane Arts is oftentimes a people we look to for some additional funding too, and we had another grant from the Dane Arts program this year. So donations, some grants, and kind of changing up the model to admission being charged for the main stage. So those three puzzle pieces really kind of have made us now to be a sustainable and in a healthy place for going forward.
Anything? I've got
No,
I've got a bunch
keep
more.
going.
Yeah, I was thinking. You talked about how the festival has slowly morphed into where it is today.
Yeah.
2008 was the first year that it was in Mazomanie.
Right.
And you talked about some of the things you had. If you can remember some of them, and
Yeah, sure.
I'm not putting you on the spot if you don't. Like you mentioned some of them in the information you sent, some of the things that you used to do. I have kind of two-part question is what were some of those things? And then, kind of why it morphed into what it is now, why that
sure.
happened.
Yeah, so I think one thing a lot of people are familiar with the festival is that we, for a long time, had a actual Gandy dancer that would come and do demonstrations at the festival, and all day long he'd kind of be just working on a little short, like 12-foot track of railway and doing demonstrations on how to use the tools and et cetera. That guy retired from his work, and it's kind of a dying art, so we haven't been able to find anybody else that does demos. There's a railway, I think it's a museum in Milwaukee. We've contacted the North Freedom folks. There's, I think, a railway festival in Kansas I even reached out to see if they knew anybody. We were really searching far and wide to see if anybody else could do that kind of a piece, and unfortunately not. For quite a while, we also had a model train group that would come and set up a big model train for little kids to kind of just play around with trains and kind of get interested in it. That went away in the early days of the pandemic. That group was really ran by a lot of older folks, and for obvious reasons, they weren't wanting to be in closed spaces doing trains with lots of kids at that point in time.
Yeah.
And similar with the Gandy Dancer demo, they're an older demographic. They've kind of stepped away from doing it, and so they don't have that same organization anymore. And so I think that's why it's been beneficial to kind of shift the emphasis a little bit over to bluegrass and kind of community celebration and getting other community organizations downtown to be featured.
If somebody wanted to give, or if they wanted to find out more about the history about the festival itself, or maybe the history of, the Gandy dancer and all that, do you have a website?
Yeah,
or
for sure.
would that type of information be there, or could they go somewhere else, to your website plus, or what?
Yeah, so we do have a FAQ page about Gandy dancers at our website, gandydancerfestival.org. I've also found a really good wealth of information about Gandy dancers through simple things like Wikipedia. You can go on YouTube, and I think on YouTube, there are some really interesting videos of the songs and chants that they used to do when they were working on the railway. So I think that's, at the core of what Gandy dancers are. So it's kind of fun to take that look back at what they did. And I think those are probably the main places I would think of to look for Gandy dancer info.
Yeah, because when I think about going down there and being a part of that, there's something that stirs in me wanting to kind of find out a little bit more about. I know it's kind of focused the bluegrass, and there's an intertwining there, but just kind of the railroad is kind of always fascinated me, and so finding out a little bit more about that is interesting.
Yeah, one piece that I'm excited about this year is Brian over at the Mazomanie Free Library has been a really great new addition to the community, and last year he had a small display for Gandy Dancer history, and this year he's expanding upon that. And so I think that if people come down to the festival Saturday, August 19th, definitely go down to the library, look at that exhibit that Brian has set up, and you can get a little bit more in-depth history there. Some of the other things that I kind of am looking forward to doing over time are maybe having some video kind of loops, people where they can go into the library and get a bit of history that way. My background's in education, so I really think it's important to deliver information multiple ways. And so getting some videos out there, I think, would be a nice added bonus to teach some of the history of Gandy dancers and how they came to be and how the festival came to be here.
I noticed that the library has a little placard out there that they're already announcing. And Gail Harrop was at the Chamber of Commerce last night. We were at the meeting, and she was handing out these
very nice posters, flyers,
yeah, yep. And posters were designed by Stefan over at Mazo Print and Design, and another really excellent addition to the community as of late. So between Brian and Stefan, we're really getting a lot of community focused support to really help the event grow, which I find is really special. And part of why I moved to this community is things like that.
Any idea on? Is it a little bit hard to keep track of the attendance? Is the attendance growing? Is it dipping? Of course, you had the pandemic there, right? Squeezed, just a few years ago. That had, you probably didn't even have one for what, a year or two?
Yeah, we took 2020 off for the pandemic, and I would say yes, attendance is growing overall. There wasn't much record keeping until in the past few years. Part of it, we pretty loosely organized group of folks, and we've really started to be a little bit more focused on data in the past 3-4 years. So we can show that attendance is growing. I think partly because of the focus on being a bluegrass festival. That word bluegrass is important. Prior to 2018, I think, it was just the Gandy Dancer Festival. We intentionally added the word bluegrass in there because there really is a large bluegrass festival, and oftentimes people would see Gandy Dancer Festival, what's that?
Yeah, exactly.
And they would really have no clue what the festival is. And so by signaling a little bit more of what we are and what the festival is, that has created some more notoriety in the bluegrass world. And we've really by honing in on that and getting more national, local, and regional touring artists have become more regionally well-known, more notable. And so I think a couple of small tweaks to branding and how we're talking about the festival has kind of increased attendance overall for the, I can't give you hard numbers, but it is.
Yeah. But as you said, the Gandy Dancer idea, the railroad and the bluegrass, it's not like mutually exclusive things. They have a connection.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's not just an add-on to try to get people here. There's a real historical connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of the original music from the Gandy Dancers were a lot of immigrant groups too. So I think that also speaks to the history of the country, and I think that's just a fascinating little piece to what a Gandy Dancer is and how music kind of became a thing. And if you keep on diving deeper into the history of bluegrass and how a lot of those immigrant groups really kind of shaped it, it's I don't know, it's all kind of a fun puzzle to put together if you've got time.
Yeah. Before we go on to this year, the 2023 festival, maybe anything else that comes to mind that you say, I really want to squeeze this into this podcast?
Sorry, let me. If I'm gonna look at my phone.
Yeah,
for 1 second here,
we're very laid back, so don't worry about it. We want to get information to people rather than being real
worried about technology being a
Yeah.
If you ever watch our podcast,
I have,
that we're never too
that we make a point.
Up.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think about the only thing I really haven't kind of jumped into is a little bit of how we do highlight not just Mazomanie as a community, but we try to highlight what we kind of think of as the gateway to the driftless region with Cross Plains and Black Earth. And I think it's important to try and bring more people around. And part of that is highlighting each of those communities too. So we work with the Cross Plains Lions Club, and they're the ones that provide the mini train rides for all the kids. We bring in the Black Earth Children's Museum, and they are really excellent partners for doing the kids tent and providing family-friendly activities. And I think that's really about the only other point I haven't highlighted yet. But we really want to celebrate how we bring people together and highlight and celebrate what we do here.
So let's talk some logistics.
Yeah, sure.
mean, for instance, it's in downtown Mazomanie at the Promenade.
Yep, down on the Promenade. The Westland Promenade, I know I always like to make sure he gets a shout out for the titling of that. The main stage is the Performing Arts Pavilion that we're really proud to highlight and showcase, and really grateful for the work that a lot of our community members did to bring that about. I know Jeff Worth did a ton of fundraising to bring that to be a thing. And so having that stage, I think, has just helped elevate our festival to another level. And again, that's another community collaboration with the Frank Lloyd Wright Architecture School over in Spring Green. We are a little. We also will have a bluegrass jam that is down in the community building.
Okay.
Well, at least it was last year. We might bring it back outside this year. So yeah, really primarily downtown. We touch base with a lot of our local businesses downtown to make sure they're open, and kind of we actually often hear that it's one of their best days of the year too.
Yeah,
because we bring a ton of foot traffic downtown for those folks.
Yeah. So if people come off Highway 14, either right or left, coming from the east or west, they just come down, and if they find the railroad tracks, if you come down the hill, then you're going to see lots of stuff going on. And are the events, the train rides for the kids and the children's little pavilion or tent, is that right along the promenade there?
Yeah, so most of it is right along the promenade. Some of it is on Broadhead Street. We actually do close off Broadhead Street.
Oh, good.
From early in the morning till late at night, so that way we don't have to worry about any sort of street traffic, and kind of just let it be a really kind of accessible space. And I think that's one of the other points that I have heard from other attendees, is that our festival is really quite an accessible festival. We don't have stairs. With the places that you want to go, you can easily access with wheelchairs. And I think we take pride in making it an event that people can easily attend and don't have to worry about lots of other stressors for access.
It's nice to have some good businesses downtown too that people can check out. Like you said, that's one of their best days. But in the past, the downtown hasn't been as lively as it is.
Right. Yeah, it's
now,
been really incredible the past few years seeing the revival.
So as far as costs are concerned, the main stage for the bluegrass is what you're charging for. What about the children's events and stuff?
So everything else is free, totally free admission. I kind of think of it as a county fair where you can oftentimes get in for free, but if you want to go see the music, you have an additional fee that you have to go in to get into the main stage. And really, we only do that so the festival is sustainable. But yeah, if you want to do any kids activities, if you want to just come down to the Potosi rolling beer car and get a beer, you don't have to pay for a beer tent. You can just come down and get a drink, listen to the music on the side, grab a bite of food to eat, and just kind of enjoy your day down on the promenade without ever paying for admission to the main stage. So there's a lot of ways to enjoy the festival without feeling like you have to put down a bunch of money for it. We also do have kids for free admission. Don't quote me, it's either 12 or 13. I forget what we usually do for kids under that age are free for admission. And so almost everything's free. Can't repeat that enough, I suppose.
Yeah. So there's food and beverages going to be down there, of course, and there's the downtown businesses, and some of them do offer food and beverages. There's the Potosi Rolling Bar. There's the Historical Museum, Mazomanie Historical Museum, that will be open that day. Also the library with the I think.
The library will be open with the Gandy Dancer exhibit. And I think one new small thing that we're adding this year, and actually I'm a new parent this year as of February, and so we're proud to be having a lactation room, family nursing room over at the library this year. So if anybody does have really young kids and they're looking for a place to do some nursing or pumping, we're going to have some space reserved in the library for folks to do that. So I think that's just, another little piece of accessibility to the festival that's nice.
Yeah. congratulations
Yeah,
on
thanks.
your
Yeah.
new one. Yeah.
We've had a couple people announce things with their kid. We've had some of our
It's
guests.
been ironic that people have announced
Announced we're
having
having a
babies or that
kid.
their
We're-
babies were born.
Pandemic babies. We're going to look back in 50 years and see it as the next baby boom.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then there's the Midwest Microcar Museum, which is in
Yeah.
the John Parman Blacksmith.
Yeah, I think we're really
Building.
excited to have that again. The flood that we had in, I think it was at 2018,
yep.
It shut them down for a few years, and we weren't able to kind of highlight them. And they're just off the promenade, so having them open again, I think it's really unique. You won't find anything like that around, and though it's not per se associated with Gandy dancers. I bring it up often. This is about the community and highlighting what we have, and I think that's one of the really unique, cool things that we've got here.
Yeah, and then the Wild Rumpus Circus.
Yeah,
It was going to be open, I guess.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
always kind of like a fun flair to the festival day,
Yeah.
having their stilt walkers around or some
Yeah.
of the circus arts that they do. And,
Yeah.
again, going back to the history of the railways,
Yeah.
the Ringling Brothers had their first performance here and the history of them getting around in the railway. So everything kind of ties into our railway history.
Lots of sights and sounds. So let's
Yeah,
talk
for
for
sure.
the last few minutes about the schedule.
Yeah.
And maybe you want to highlight some of the bands. And I know there's one gentleman who's a part of a band that lives in Mazo now.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe talk
absolutely.
about that. Just
Yeah.
feel free if you need this. You've got
I've
one
got
down
one
there.
down
yeah,
here too.
as
Maybe
notes.
I'll
Yeah.
slide it
sheets.
over
Yeah,
if
there
you
you
can see
go.
it.
Yeah.
So the I'll just go through quickly each band because I think
Yeah.
each one has a lot to offer. We in the festival try to vary. So bluegrass has a ton of kind of little niche subgenres in it, and so we try to feature slightly different approaches to bluegrass. The first band of the day, Handpicked Bluegrass Band, is a fairly traditional bluegrass band from north central Wisconsin. And actually, the first two bands have kind of a unique tie-in together. The bassist for a handpicked bluegrass band, it's a mouthful.
Say that 5 times.
Yeah, right. He played with the legendary Bill Monroe a little bit, and which is actually interesting because Mark Hembry Band, our 1 p.m. band, that gentleman, the band leader, was also a bassist with Bill Monroe. However, Mark Hembry had a really substantial experience with him, toured with Bill Monroe for 4 years, wrote a book about the experience, has things that he's done with Bill Monroe in bluegrass museums. And so his tie-in with Bill Monroe, if you're not familiar with him, being the father of bluegrass, much of what we know today is kind of thanks to Bill Monroe. So we have a true legend of bluegrass that'll be here at 1 p.m. with the Mark Hembry Band. So I think the kind of real pure traditional bluegrass, you get that flavor with Mark Hembry's group. They're really exciting. At 3 p.m., we've got Fox Crossing String Band. They're an all-female bluegrass band out of the Chicago area. And actually, they were our most requested band to come back from last year. So it was an easy choice to bring them back. They're really incredible. And I think, I think it's really important to have representation for women in bluegrass because traditionally it would be a really heavily male-dominated music and genre, and so, but obviously, women have a lot to offer in bluegrass music, and this Fox Crossing String Band is a really great way to highlight women in bluegrass. So we're really proud to have them.
Do you see where they were out of?
Chicago area.
Chicago.
Yep.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Got it.
Yep, they've been around since 2016, so relatively newer in the bluegrass world, but really kind of taking off. Especially the past few years, you've seen them in a lot of other local bluegrass festivals and gaining a lot of popularity and notoriety. So excited to have them back again this year. At 5 p.m. is Art Stevenson and Highwater. And when you think of bluegrass in Wisconsin, most people would first name Art Stevenson
Oh, okay.
as like the Wisconsin bluegrass legend. He is from central Wisconsin, which is where I grew up and first kind of became familiar with him. And they are just another incredible example of kind of the driving, high tempo, fast picking bluegrass that you'll find out there. One of Art Stevenson's, I think, most notable tunes is Orange Blossom Special, and he plays harmonica on that, and it's a train song, and he kind of mimics trains on it, and so again another tie-in to bluegrass and train history. And then, yeah, our headliners this year, I'm really excited about them. Armchair Boogie is in the bluegrass world a little bit known as jam grass or new grass. They're a really progressive bluegrass group, and this year they've got a drum set, which for our festival is kind of unique.
That last night, yeah.
I don't think we've had a drum set on stage for at least a few years now. Traditional bluegrass for the most part is banjo, mandolin, bass, fiddle, maybe some slight variations in that. And a lot of bluegrass purists will actually like put up their nose at a drum kit and be like, that's not bluegrass. But Armchair Boogie is really infectious and a lot of fun. They experiment with a lot of progressive bluegrass sounds, whether it be adding some pedals and effects to some of their sounds, but they are still bluegrass at their core. And as of a year or two ago, this is purely coincidental, but one of their members do live in the village here. And so I've kind of long before that actually been considering bringing them into Meso for the festival. And so when I heard that one of their members, Denzel, their drummer, moved to Meso, I was like, yeah, we got to make this happen. So here they are, and I think be ready to dance, be ready to have fun, because those guys are really known for a good following. And funny side note, the Sylvie venue in Madison released on Instagram a post that was their top beer sales for all of their events in like 2022, 2021. I can't remember which year it was. The very top band, Armchair Boogie. So, they bring a good crowd, and then people come to have fun and listen to them. And so I think it's people are going to really love what they're going to do downtown.
Nice.
So there's starting at 11 a.m.
Yep.
Then they do basically an hour and a half.
Yep. Hour and a half, half hour turnovers,
Yeah.
Give folks some time to go get some food, go get some drinks. All of our vendors that we've got are local businesses. We have, the UCC Church doing their pies, which everybody's always really excited about. The 608 Community Kitchen folks help out with making some really incredible tacos. They usually try to get as many of our local businesses in downtown. And again, Potosi Rolling Bar is right there for folks to get a nice beer. If you haven't had their root beer too, incredible root beer. So
okay.
I'd strongly recommend it.
Yeah.
About 2 hours. All the bands, so you can think of 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 and 7. And so, I think that's what is also kind of nice about the festival. A lot of festivals are these big multi-day events.
Yeah.
You kind of have to plan an entire 3-4 days around them. Gandy Dancer's nice because you can drive up in the morning, be home at night. It's a one-day event, and really easy to get to from a number of different areas around the state. We draw a lot of folks from the Twin Cities, a lot of people from Milwaukee. So it's a good way to get Mesomania on the map.
So it's Saturday, August 19th, 2023. It starts basically at noon with 11 a.m. the main stage. And then at noon, some of the other events take place, the kids events.
Right.
And
Noon
things
to
like
3 is really the busiest part of the day when we have all the kids stuff going on. But for any bluegrass musician out there, even if you just pick it up to your instrument for the first time this year, we have a bluegrass jam from 3:30 to 5, and actually hasn't even made it on the poster because it's new news. Art Stevenson is going to be kicking off that bluegrass jam, and so if you want an opportunity to play with one of the bluegrass legends in Wisconsin, here's your chance. You don't get this kind of opportunity every day, and so the bluegrass jam takes place in the kids' tent once the kids' tent stuff is shut down for the day.
Great.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff to do.
Yeah. Great job. Here's maybe what we'll do, Kenny, is we'll put this interview / promotional information out. You can use it however you want. And then if you don't mind, maybe we'll have you come back a little bit closer, a couple weeks or 3 weeks before.
Yeah,
I know
sure.
we're getting closer, all the time, but maybe then we can just go back and highlight these again and put out another thing, because more promotion the better, and the more information, maybe a little different look and sound.
Yeah, I can tweak it up a little bit for the next time for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
But there's so much to be excited about with the event, and I couldn't be more honored to be a part of it. And I think I said my background's in education, but I actually taught music education. I taught band in Wisconsin Rapids for about 4 or 5 years before I came down here. And I don't teach anymore, so I kind of look at this now as like an extension of my history and what I've done, and kind of still working to promote music and kind of try and educate the community about what bluegrass is. And
Well,
Did we talk
it's
about-
great service. Go ahead.
Did we talk about where people can find? Aren't there like tickets and stuff like that they talked about last
Oh,
night? Or is
yeah,
that
yeah.
something? Maybe that's not something you
No,
want.
no, that's totally cool. We do have tickets available in. If you go to a couple local places, both at Mazo Hardware and the Mazomanie Free Library, those are $15 in advance or $20 at the gate. If you can't make it down to Mazo but want to get tickets, check out our Instagram or Facebook pages. You can find links to our online tickets. Those are via Eventbrite. Again, those are $15 online, but you do have a little bit of a processing fee if you buy them online. So if you can get to Mazo Hardware or the Mazo Free Library, you can get those tickets in advance and a little bit cheaper than online.
Sounds
Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah, no,
Great,
I just
yeah.
remembered that last night
Yeah.
from the meeting, and I thought
Yeah.
maybe people would want to know what
Yeah, for sure.
there's a early bird special kind of.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
good to meet another Mazomaniac.
Yeah,
Mazomaniac.
like it's right. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, now we'll know one another when we see each other around town or whatever at the festival. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm the MC on the main stage too,
Okay.
so you'll see me
Oh, great.
announcing bands in between and kind of promoting them as we get things
good.
going.
Well, we're
So,
going to for sure be down to do a little filming and stuff
Sweet.
like that to try to
look forward to it.
Sounds good. Thanks,
All right.
Kenny. Yeah.